Hey guys, welcome to another movie review. Today I'm talking about a film that's actually the second film's directorial debut of Maggie Gyllenhaal. I believe she did a film for Netflix a couple years back, but this is one of her first wide release, theatrical released films, and it's called The Bride, with an exclamation point at the very end of the title. In this film, you guys, it's essentially a reimagining of the Bride of Frankenstein story. Right away, we follow Mary Shelley in the afterlife, who's the author of the Frankenstein book. She admits to the audience that basically she feels um, the overall Frankenstein impact and its legacy that she was hoping for from that book was much different than how it played out. We immediately cut to a middle aged woman played by Jessie Buckley, and she essentially is this young woman that has these ties to the mafia. And early on in the film, something happens and tragic happens to her that essentially takes her life. And so, while after that happens, we follow a character that's played by Christian Bale, who's essentially because the film takes place in the 1930s. So we basically follow a real life 1930s character that's essentially what Frankenstein would look like out in the real world. He just goes by Frank as well, so that's kind of like a shorter version of the Frankenstein name. And so we find out right away that this Frank character that Christian Bale plays is looking for a romantic partner, obviously with his deformities and his disadvantages to what everybody else has for a body. He has a hard time finding a romantic partner, so he tracks down this scientist to try to kind of figure out what he can do, what his options are. And so, in the typical tradition of the Frankenstein story, this female scientist played by Annette Bening offers him basically, we can dig up a body for you, we can reanimate it back to life, and obviously the two of you can form a relationship together. So after this happens, after we find out kind of what happened with the Jessie Buckley character, that's the body that basically Annette Bening's character digs up in the graveyard. And so after she gets reanimated back into life, Christian Bale tries to figure out, if they can form this romantic relationship together. While that's going on, they kind of form this unintentional crime spree where they're always getting into trouble when they go out in public, whether it's riots at a club or performing a heist somewhere, or killing of an innocent person or anything along that line. And so basically, that sends them on to kind of this um, travel across the country where they go from like New York City to Chicago to all these other places where they always seem to be getting in some kind of trouble with each other. And so while that's going on, they're still trying to figure out what exactly they want to have for a romantic relationship with each other. Clearly, this bride character played by Jessie Buckley doesn't want to be in a relationship, while the Christian Bale character, he's madly in love with this person. He almost feels like she's almost too beautiful for him. And so over the course of this film, these two characters have to figure out what exactly do they want from this relationship with each other. How come they're always getting into some type of crime with each other? How exactly are they going to make some kind of normal life work with each other? And what exactly is their path in life going to be now that they've found each other? But what exactly are they going to do about that? So all this happens over the course of The Bride. So unfortunately, guys, I did not like this movie very much, and that's really too bad because I really admire Maggie Gyllenhaal as an actress. She's been in tons of my favorite movies. I really admire her brother Jake Gyllenhaal as well, who also happens to have a role in this movie. She's been in The Dark Knight and Stranger Than Fiction and Adaptation and all this stuff that I've just loved over the course of the years. And so when I heard that she was directing a wide release movie like this, and it was basically a reimagining of an IP that everybody knows and love with The Bride of Frankenstein, I was really excited to see this movie. And unfortunately, I've now seen the film in full, and I just got to say I did not like this movie at all. There's things about it that are interesting, I guess, and it really does swing for the fences and just try to be new and different. But for the most part, I really didn't care for this movie. So I'm going to go over some positives and negatives as to some things that I think overall worked in the movie and probably could have been even better with a better script. But for the most part, how I kind of overall really didn't like this movie very much either. So for my positives and negatives of this movie, I do think Maggie Gyllenhaal as a director clearly has a knack for visual and stylistic storytelling. She always has interesting ways of telling a scene to you. whether it's something in black and white, something that's trying to look like it's from the actual Bride of Frankenstein movie, and then also there's stylistic choices where maybe they're at like a nightclub somewhere and the lighting is different. Maybe it's only one, two, or three colors depicted for those scenes, or if there's like strobe lights going on, we're only able to see kind of what Christian Bale's character is able to see in that strobe light moment and stuff like that. So there's stylistic choices she has as a director that I think could benefit her for other projects if she decides to direct other projects down the road. And obviously there's some good visuals here too, but um, yeah, I think overall, I think those skill sets would have worked better for an even better script, a better project. Um, like I said, some great visuals and some great stylistic choices to tell the story. And so, like I said, if Maggie Gyllenhaal does decide to direct more projects down the road, I think that's something about her directing style that I would be looking forward to in those projects. Another positive I had with the movie was I liked how they had the idea of Mary Shelley speaking in the afterlife, kind of honestly, basically sharing with us how she really does feel about the legacy of Frankenstein and some things that she wishes could have played out better now that the Frankenstein novel is out, now that movies are out, now that other iterations of the characters are out. Um, so I thought that aspect of the story was interesting. There's certain things they do creatively as to how she keeps showing up in the story that I thought could have been better. But I do like the idea of Mary Shelley in the afterlife kind of expressing what she's aware of going on throughout in reality and kind of the goods and the bads and the legacy of the Frankenstein story. So I thought that aspect and that idea was interesting in the movie. And also overall, Christian Bale's desire as a character, his Frank character, his Frankenstein monsters character, um, his desire to find a romantic partner was understandable because he does have some really bad deformities to his character. Clearly, he's not somebody that can just go out and work a job and go out to social events and just become friends with everybody because his appearance is so shocking at first and so deformed at first. You can definitely see how he's kind of reaching for almost every opportunity he can to find a potential romantic partner, find somebody that can find a solution to this problem that he's been having. So his problem that he runs into as a character right away in the story was understandable, just because he is in such a odd situation to be in compared to other people. So I thought his desire that he had as a character of finding a romantic partner was understandable as a character and understandable as an audience member too. And there's some overall modernized Frankenstein moments that I thought were pretty effective, like when Frankenstein and the Bride of Frankenstein are running away from like a lynch mob that they encounter in the city. It does kind of feel like something that would be the overall Frankenstein story in modern day form, or in this case, 1930s form, because that's when the story takes place. And just the overall idea of Frankenstein going into a movie theater and somebody noticing that Frankenstein's monsters in the theater and freaking out about it. Stuff like that I thought was pretty effective as far as modernizing the Frankenstein story is concerned. So I thought that aspect of the story also thought was pretty effective for the most part too. But for my negatives of this movie, I just did not care about these characters. I did not care about the bride. I did not care about Frankenstein. I did not care about what the Annette Bening scientist was up to, what the Peter Sarsgaard detective was up to, what his Penelope Cruz partner was up to. I just didn't care about anybody. I didn't care about anything that really happened to any of these characters. They were just so unlikable. They're just, and even the ones that were kind of trying to be likable were just really flat and uninteresting. We really didn't get enough backstory on some of these characters. So as far as character writing is concerned, I thought the film really fell flat as far as writing a good character for a script is concerned. And this is not necessarily the bride's fault, but one thing I feel like it's kind of coming up a lot in other movies now too, is I really feel like the police force is really poorly written in this movie. It really feels like either they don't know what they're doing or they're doing stuff that police department people wouldn't be doing. And, showing up to a crime scene like super, super late into the incident. There's just a lot of stuff like that that really doesn't feel believable. It really makes you, kind of takes you out of the film because, if that were to happen in real life, the police department would show up right away for something like that. So there's just stuff like that in the movie that really doesn't work for me very well. Another negative I had with the movie too was the bride character overall is just kind of a terrible person. She's just not likable, not fun to be around. She's kind of loud and obnoxious. And yeah, sure, maybe there's justification for she's reanimated and she's learning how to be back in public again with other people. But as far as the script is concerned, it just doesn't make for the most interesting character to follow for over the course of the story. And I don't really blame Jessie Buckley's performance because that's just the script that she was handed for the movie. But just the fact that she was a terrible person for no reason, I thought, didn't really justify for the poor character writing for the movie. So I thought that aspect of the story could have been better. And also, I thought the film never really found a central tone or a consistent plot to work with. The film is kind of shifting tones so often, whether it's a Bonnie and Clyde thing with them getting into trouble, or an actual Bride of Frankenstein tone, or a modernized Bride of Frankenstein tone, or them going into the fields or the suburbs or the city, or once again another change of tone. It doesn't really have a central tone that it's consistently working off of. And then when it comes to the plot, there really isn't a consistent plot either. It's just kind of a bunch of bad situations that these two characters keep getting into, and they are seem to always keep getting in trouble, or whether it's somebody dying or somebody getting hurt, or somebody spotting them out in public, and people freaking out that it looks like something out of Frankenstein or whatever. So I thought the film could have found a more consistent plot, a more consistent end goal of what they were trying to do. Because by the end of the film, I was kind of questioning too, what exactly were these characters trying to do over the course of this film? And also, too, another thing that really kind of bothered me about the film is the film tries to glorify vomit pretty much. Like, there's just a lot of scenes where it just kind of keeps doing it and keeps going on and on and on about characters vomiting, and they almost kind of glorify it in a way. And there's just a lot of other gross behavior that the film tries to seem to promote a lot that I really had a hard time getting into. So it is one of those films, unfortunately, where because these characters keep getting into trouble and keep doing things that are mostly pretty much frowned upon about society. But so I thought that glorifying the vomit, glorifying the bad behavior, glorifying the weird behavior too, I thought was just kind of unusual for this movie. And by the end of the film too, another thing that kind of frustrated me is I couldn't tell if this film was meant to be about misunderstood love or escapist fun. I feel like you can have one film or the other kind of film. You really can't have both. Or if you want to have both, you have to balance it properly. And the film never had a sense of balance of what's escapist fun, what's a story about misunderstood love. Are we going that direction? Are we going this direction? And if you want to do a hybrid of both, you have to find a way to do both. And unfortunately, by the time the film was over with, neither one of those paths felt successfully went down at all. Like they didn't successfully find a hybrid of either one of those ideas very well. But overall, guys, I'm going to give The Bride a 6.5 out of 10. It really isn't a good movie. There's things about it that are kind of admirable and kind of swing for the fences and are different, but for the most part, I just really didn't care about this movie. It really was just kind of all over the place. It was just kind of a chaotic mess that had too many ideas going on at once and just kind of never really settled on one good solid idea. It just kind of pursued 40 random ideas and not like two or three really good ones that could have made a really good movie out of this idea. But 6.5 out of 10 for me. I would say skip this one altogether. I'd be open to Maggie Gyllenhaal directing another project. I just hope it's much smaller, has more consistent ideas, and I like a more consistent tone to it as well. Hopefully this is a learning experience. Hopefully if we do get more films from her, they are a little bit more consistent in tone and story, and don't feel like there's like 40 different ideas going on at the same time. So 6.5 out of 10 for me. You can skip The Bride. It's not a very good movie.